Welcome to Lesson 9 in the Module 8 series, and in this video we're going to be focusing on technologies and disorder, and we're going to be focusing on these for the next 3 videos in our series, and in this video we're going to be focusing on hearing. So we're going to look at a range of disorders that cause hearing loss, we're going to look at some technologies that assist with hearing loss, and then we're going to see and evaluate their effectiveness, whether they in fact do help to manage and assist hearing loss. So sound vibrates through a medium of gas, liquid, or solid, and the frequency in which we hear is determined by the pitch. And we also have the amplitude, which determines the loudness. And we can see here that humans have a hearing frequency of from 20 to 20K, and we also see in the amplitude, we can see here that there's a big difference between the frequencies we can hear as humans compared to those that whales and all the way up to bats can hear. So to understand how hearing loss happens, we do need to understand the function and the anatomy of the ear. So the ear has 2 main functions, not just hearing, but also for balance. And our ear is divided up into 3 sections: the outer, the middle, and the inner ear. It is important, in fact, to have the pinna or the external ear that we see on every person. And it's important because it gathers sound waves. We then see the middle ear, and that has the tiny bones or the ossicles filled with air, and the round window, which fluid vibrations terminate and have their energy absorbed in that section. We then also have the inner ear, which contains the cochlea and the semicircular canals, which are again filled with fluid. So the oval window in this section transfers sound vibration from the solid stapes bone into pressure waves inside the cochlea. And some of these structures may sound familiar to you, and they're going to come familiar when we start to look at some of the technologies that we use to assist if we do in fact have hearing loss. Some of our other really important things we see here is our eardrum. But also, if you've ever heard of a middle ear infection, that's where we see the infection happening within those tiny bones. And then we can see as well here that we're starting to look at some of the nerves, which may play a part in our hearing loss later in our video. So to detect sound, the pinna needs to collect the sound waves, and it travels down the auditory canal to the tympanic membrane, and this vibrates at the same frequency as the sound. So it's kind of like a cover of a drum. From the tympanic membrane, the first of the ossicles is attached, and this bone begins to vibrate. This amplifies the vibration and passes this onto the other 2 ossicles, which again amplify the vibration. This last ossicle is attached to the oval window, which then begins to vibrate, and it causes the fluid in the cochlea to vibrate. So we can see that it's really important that we pass on this vibration generated by our sound waves. The hair cells in the organ of Corti detect the vibration and pass this message to the brain via the auditory nerve. And so we see here that we've gone from sound energy into our mechanical energy in terms of our vibration, and then we have electrochemical energy for our message to be passed to our brain. So there are several disorders that can cause hearing loss. So we have auditory processing disorders, conductive hearing loss, sensorineural hearing loss, mixed hearing loss, and then tinnitus. Auditory processing disorders are problems in the auditory areas of the brain and in the way in which it processes the sound and the electrochemical wave that's been sent there. So it's a lack of understanding of speech. Most people are unable to detect the direction of the sound if they have this disorder, and it usually requires educational intervention. Some of the causes might be congenital, so it was present from birth or an inherited condition, or it can in fact be from a physical injury. Conductive hearing loss is when sound is not conducted efficiently through the outer and middle ear, and most people will hear this as a reduced sound volume. It can usually be corrected medically or surgery. Some of the causes may be a malformation of the outer ear, some fluid in the middle ear infection, allergies, a perforated eardrum, or in fact earwax. Sensorineural hearing loss is damage to the cochlea or to the nerve pathways from the inner ear to the brain. It is very rare, but it's a common type of permanent hearing loss. Some causes might be exposure to damaging noise, a head injury or trauma, some tumours, aging, which in some of the textbook information you might read is presbycusis. Sometimes this is due to enlarged hair cells, they lose resilience and the ability to respond to fluid vibrations, or it might just be hereditary. Mixed hearing loss is a combination of both conductive and sensorineural, and it may be damaged in the outer or middle ear, or in the inner ear or auditory nerve. And then tinnitus may be permanent or temporary, and it's hearing a sound that isn't actually there. Sometimes people describe this as ringing in their ears, but it's most commonly experienced as buzzing, roaring, clicking, or hissing. And some risk factors for this is exposure to loud sounds, getting older, or in fact, again, earwax. So technologies that we would use to aid hearing disorders will in fact change based on the hearing disorder and the amount of loss which a person may be experiencing. So we see with profound hearing loss, a cochlear implant might be used. Hearing aids we see mentioned on our list, but also some ear implants, which may also be able to help. Assistive listening devices are not wearable, but they can be built into household devices, and this includes things like alarms, phones, or TVs, and these are mainly used to amplify the volume output. Hearables include smart headphones or wearable earpiece devices that contain a microcomputer. These usually fit into the ear canal and use wireless technology to connect with other devices. We then look at hearing aids. So these are electronic amplification devices that assist with hearing loss. They have to contain a microphone to detect sounds. They contain a device to modulate the sound, and then an amplifier is used to increase the sound volume, and these are usually powered by a battery. A good thing about hearing aids is that they can connect with hearing loops in public venues, and they're much more effective because they can be tailored to a person and their needs. So they can be conventional, or they may in fact be bone conducting hearing aids. Hearing implants may include bone conduction implants, cochlear implants, hybrid cochlear implants, middle ear implants, or auditory brainstem implants. And we can see here in the picture of the right, it is a child here, he's 8, that has a cochlear implant on his head. And we can see here that the electrode is implanted into the cochlea, and then we see a processor behind the ear which passes the signals to the transmitter that's sent to that's attached to the scalp. So we can also have some different grommets. So grommets are in fact used to relieve the pressure and keep the middle ear aerated, and this is usually used for middle ear infections and most commonly in children. So you may have had a grommet inserted into your ear, but they may not stay there for a long amount of time. That concludes lesson 9. Make sure you tune in for lesson 10.